Welcome back, students. This is Sam sir from Bal Bharati International School, and we are in the second part of the three parts of this chapter, second chapter of geography, known as physical features of India. In this video, we are going to cover only two topics. Both are important, and both are lengthy. So I've kept only two here. The first one is the Himalayan mountains, and the second one is the northern plains of India. Now, Himalayan mountains they give an identity to the country, also to the surrounding, the neighboring countries such as Nepal and Bhutan, and some Indian states such as Jammu Kashmir and Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand, and so on and so forth. So this is an important feature of the Indian subcontinent. In the previous video, I had told you about the convergence of plates, and when plates collide, they give rise to mountains. In this plate, you can see in this slide, you can see that these are two plates which are colliding with each other. The Indian plate colliding with the Eurasian plate and giving rise to mountains. This is how Himalayas came into existence. And just a recap of the last video. These are known as fold mountains because of the folding of the rocks. These rocks have folded but not broken, and Himalayas are classified as fold mountains. Now, in this video, in this slide, you can see that this is how on the right hand side we have the Himalayas forming, and behind that is the Tibetan plateau, and we have mountains, middle Himalayas, which are lesser in height, and then we have the low mountains and hills, and then we have the plains. The Himalayan mountains are young geologically, and structurally they are known as fold mountains, just like I told you a few minutes ago. And this forms the northern boundary of India, and it runs from east to west, from the Indus in the east to the Brahmaputra in the west, forming an arc, and the total length is 2400 kilometers. The maximum width is in Kashmir about 400 kilometers, and the minimum width is found in Arunachal Pradesh of 150 kilometers. These Himalayas are three parallel chains of mountains. Now, this is the the chains of mountains. You can see that there's one chain which is continuous from starting from Jammu Kashmir and goes right up to Arunachal Pradesh. This is known as the inner chain. Then we have a chain which is broken in between. This is known as the lower Himalayas. And then finally we have this Shivalik range which is discontinuous. Outside of India, we have the Hindu Kush and the Kunlun Mountains, and the Suleiman Range, about which you will be studying in standard 11. Let's look at the three chains one by one. Greater Himalayas or Himadri or Inner Himalayas, they mean the same thing. This is the most continuous chain of mountains, and this is also the highest elevation mountains. The average height is 6,000 meters, and it contains all the prominent peaks that you know of, and it's asymmetrical core, and the core is made up of granite. When we say the core is made up of granite, we are reminded that granites are igneous rocks, and it also shows some kind of volcanic activity because it was the Indian plate which moved and collided with the Eurasian plate, which gave rise to the Himalayas. Now, this Deccan area has got volcanic origin. Himalayan mountains are perennially snowbound, that is, all the 12 months of the year it is covered with snow, and many glaciers descend from here and give rise to several of our rivers. The lesser Himalayas are not as continuous as the inner Himalayas, and they are more rugged in nature than the inner Himalayas. They're composed of highly compressed and altered rocks. The altitude is between 3,700 and 4,500 meters, and the average width is 50 kilometers. The prominent ranges in this is Pir Panjal, which is the longest range, also Dauladar and Mahabharat range. The prominent valleys are Kashmir, Kullu, and Kangra, and several hill stations of India are located here. The Shivaliks or the outer Himalayas, when you go from the Indian subcontinent towards the north, you will be first encountering the Shivaliks, and they have the average altitude of 900 to 1100 meters and a width of 10 to 50 kilometers. They are composed of unconsolidated sediments brought down by the main Himalayan rivers. The rivers valleys are covered with gravel and alluvium. The longitudinal valleys between Lesser Himalaya and Shivaliks are known as Dun. The well-known dunes are Dehradun, Kotli Dun, and Patli Dun. The Himalayas can also be studied uh, on the basis of the location from west to east. Karakoram range is where the Ladakh is located. It's not there in your textbook, so you need not know it. But the place, the area which is falling in the Indus, near the Indus, are known as the Western Himalayas. Then we have the Central Himalayas, and most of Nepal comes here. And then we have the Eastern Himalayas, which is in the Brahmaputra plains. The western are in Indus plains. The central are in the range of Ganga, and the eastern are in the range of Brahmaputra. On the basis of the regions from where it's originating, from west to east, we can have three demarcations. These are named as per the river valleys. Between Indus and Satluj River, we have Punjab Himalayas, also known as Kashmir Himalayas. Between Satluj and Kali rivers, we have Kumaon Himalayas. Between Kali and Tista River are Nepal Himalayas. Between Tista and the Dihang rivers, we have Assam Himalayas. Then the easternmost boundary of Himalayas is the river Brahmaputra. Now, beyond Dihang Gorge, the Himalayas bend sharply towards the south and spread along the eastern boundary of India. Here they are known as Purvanchal Hills. I want to tell you that the height of hills, height of the elevation decreases from west to east. So when you are in the east, these are just hills here. Although these hills are also quite tall, but they cannot be classified as mountains. These hills run through the northeastern states, and they are composed of strong sandstone. Now, when we say sandstone, we also mean that presence of sedimentary rocks. Because of the rivers here, there's a lot of sedimentation. Purvanchal hills are parallel valleys and are well forested. The Purvanchal hills are comprised of Patkai hills, Naga hills, Manipur hills, and Mizo hills. The second point is about the northern plains. Uh, in the first video, I showed you that because of convergence, when the subduction took place, the subducting plate left a depression, and in this depression, over a period of time, when the alluvial soil filled up, it gave rise to the northern plains. So these are also because of the tectonic activity indirectly. Now, as you know that here in this region we have the Indus River and the plains of Indus River, and then the plains of River Ganga and the plains of River Brahmaputra. These three plains combine, and together we call it as the northern plain. The specialities of the northern plains, this is formed due to the deposition of alluvium from three river systems, just like I told you, and it has the same length from west to east as the Himalayas, that is 2400 kilometers, and the width varies between 240 to 320 kilometers. This region is very suitable for agriculture because of the rich soil and fertile soil there's lot of water supply, and the climate is suitable. These factors make it also densely populated. Rivers uh, form riverine islands. The reason is when the slope reduces, the deposition increases because the velocity of rivers slow down. So a lot of sand and silt and pebbles and boulders get deposited, and they form riverine islands. The rivers distribute into several channels, and these are known as distributaries. This is also because of deposition. Just like we studied Himalayas in on the basis of the river plains, river valleys, we can also study the northern plains as per the rivers. We have Punjab plains where the deposition is mainly because of Indus River. Then we have the Gangetic plains mainly because of the deposition from the river Ganges. And then we have the Brahmaputra plains. This is the place where the major contribution is from the river Brahmaputra in deposition. They can also be studied in section west to east. Let us see that the Punjab plains is formed by the Indus and its tributaries. The larger part of the plain lies in Pakistan. The Doab, that is the land between the two rivers, Indus and Jhelum, is in this range. Now, I want to tell you that Ab means river. Doab means two rivers. And Punjab, Panj means Panch, five. So, this is the land of five rivers. The Gangetic Plains is between Gagar and Tista rivers. Its expanse is over the three states, the states of North India, Haryana, Delhi, Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, part of Jharkhand and West Bengal. The Brahmaputra plain is can be seen in the state of Assam. Now you know what is weathering and what is erosion and what is deposition. These three processes keep on happening simultaneously. The weathering is because of agents such as sunlight, heat, temperature, pressure of the atmosphere, wind and water also. And erosion is mainly because of gravity and wind action and water action. And when that happens, again gravity comes into picture, and depending on the slope, deposition takes place either immediately below the place from where it is eroded or at a distance. So this information will be needed to go to our next topic. Like I told you that Himalayas is because of formation. The formation of Himalayas is because of subduction, and we take a better look here. On the left hand side is the Himalayas, which rose up because of subduction, and the place immediately at the foothills is known as Bhabar, and the next area is known as Tarai, and we have Bhangar and Khadar in the between the river valleys. Now we'll look at each one of them and try and understand what they mean. Now, according to the variation in relief features, the northern plains can be divided into four regions. The first one is the Bhabar belt. This is a narrow belt, just 8 to 16 kilometers wide and parallel to Shivaliks, where the rivers descending from the mountain deposits pebbles. And interestingly, all the streams appear to disappear here. They, it appears that they have disappeared. The reason is because of the boulders and the rocks and the pebbles they bring from the mountains are so much that when the rivers flow in between them, the river doesn't appear as a river with surface water. Then, when the water flows down further and the deposition occurs further southward, we have the Terai region. This is the region where the streams which disappeared in the Babar belt re-emerge and form a wet, swampy and marshy area. This is called the Tarai. This is thickly forested and rich in wildlife. Dudhwa National Park is located here. Now let's see what is the meaning of Bhangar. This is a terrace-like feature of old alluvium above the flood plains of rivers. Bhangar forms the largest part of northern plains. The soil here contains calcareous pebbles called kankad. And Khadar is a newer deposit as compared to Bhangar. Bhangar is old alluvium, Khadar is new alluvium. This is the difference. And this gets renewed almost every year, so it is very fertile. It keeps washed away and new gets added here, and this makes it new all the time, very good for crops, and this is the reason why it's intensely uh, cropped or given for agricultural activities. Now this is a map. The hills are there, the streams of water are there, and this pink area and the gray area are the areas of deposition. This is end of part 1, and in this picture this is from Gadwal, and you can see there's deposition on one side of the river, and on the other side there are a lot of pebbles and rocks, and the smaller picture on the right shows lot of rocks. This is end of this part. We'll continue in this. There's one more part to this chapter, and we'll continue with that and conclude this chapter there.